I used to call these reviews the rational perspective, and I try and be someone that brings nuance and wants to see both sides of the story, doesn't want to go overboard. But it's very hard to sit here and not go overboard or not be emotional or kind of not say what's just bleedingly obvious. And it's something that I felt for a long period of time, but over the past few weeks, I think it's been notable how many people have come around to this point of view, and epitomised, of course, by Rob Sanchez tonight. But I think Rob Sanchez is a sad symbol for what Chelsea currently are. Objectively, sure, we can look at the Premier League table and say it's not the most cataclysmic position Chelsea are in. It doesn't mean Chelsea's position after losing to Man City tonight is unsalvageable and we can no longer get any form of European football or Champions League football, which, unlike what Maresca says, should be the common line and the clear line between success and failure this year. However, losing to Man City, this is not the same Man City of last year. And when I see such stupidity from our first choice goalkeeper, it's easy for me to look at that player and have a go at that player. But then I think back to the summer where I think most people could already say, and listen, I could get really frustrated here and say the gaslighting that has come to epitomise modern Chelsea frustrates me. I mean, I'm glad some people are starting to figure out that certain things and certain decisions that were made in the summer were just objectively poor and are costing us in a severe way now and don't make us a serious team, one that is going to get better, one that has a severe quality and depth and players that you could bring on and make us better when others are struggling. But I remember sitting here in the summer and telling you that Rob Sanchez was not a reliable first choice. And a bit like I sat here in the summer and said, I'm not entirely sure Enzo Maresca is the greatest choice for Chelsea's head coach position at a time when there's pressure and expectation and a need to start getting results. Now, on both counts, more so Maresca, he's done some good things this year. Undeniably, Chelsea about a month ago were in a very different position. And you could sit here and still make the argument that in a month's time, Chelsea may be in a radically different position. However, I like to take a longer term view and I like to look at long-term evidence. And at the moment, given our transfer window being such a shambles, where we're targeting players we don't need, overlooking areas that do need surgery, and only being compounded by this is our decision to rely on Rob Sanchez as first choice goalkeeper, and for him to be exposed in such an obvious way in a big game that has cost Chelsea tonight, sums up the main problem at Chelsea that I've been speaking about for a long period of time now. And it isn't just about one game, because Chelsea could have won tonight and I would have been sat here and I've been happy and I've been, can this now revive our season? This could be so psychologically big for Chelsea. But I don't think, I'm not someone who sits here and swings my overall assessment of Chelsea and the way it's handled and the decision makers, particularly the sporting directors, on one game, because that's foolish. My criticism of Chelsea as a club is built off of 4 windows and built off of several years and long-term decision making that has led us to this position. Because undeniably, tonight was such a great example of what's wrong at Chelsea and why so much is wrong at Chelsea. I feel like Chelsea are in their Black Mirror Twilight Zone era, where bad players are indulged, politically defended, back to the hilt, given so much power and so much leverage and so much stock. We have more briefings than wins. We have more briefings than trophies in the media. We're great media champions at the moment. We're a team and a club that can spew out and can easily put out great worded PR savvy briefs that talk about how wonderful we are behind the scenes. Of course, before that actually blowing up in our face on the pitch. But when I look at the squad and I think about how much money's been spent on it, and when I see so many clear flaws within the squad, whether that be in goalkeeper, which is the most notable one tonight, but Nicholas Jackson, who has fallen off a cliff over the past month, and there's no suitable centre-forward option to bring on. Midfield, absolutely no depth, where Maresca's not turning to the bench because he can't, because Lavia's not there. He's obviously not going to play Kin in Dewsbury Hall, a pointless signing that was defended in the summer, but clearly hasn't worked out for Chelsea. A team that was done by Route 1 in that second half, let's be honest. It was not tiki-taka football. It was not control. It was not beautiful holistic, poetry in motion. It was a keeper hitting the ball to a big man and us being undone by that. And also some very basic goalkeeping errors. Which I think, again, just summarises our demand and sudden turn in the summer for control and to play this possession style of football was so flawed and just so illogical and just didn't make a lot of sense to me based on the qualities that actually are in the squad, which we saw in those opening 10 minutes, which is transition football, which is using our speed on the break. And how I just don't really see inverting fullbacks is some great magic trick that's going to turn us into this great team. When actually you kind of feel like during the season it's in some ways hurt us. I know I'm going off on a tangent here, and yeah, sure, we can look at the game. We benefit off a really terrible mistake. Noni Madueke scores. In that first 10 minutes, Chelsea should have been 2-0 up. Cole Palmer, our best player, unfortunately hasn't turned up in these big games. Should have made it 2-0, or at least should have played a better pass to Jackson, who could have finished and made it 2-0 tactically. How poor we were in that first half, how much we sat deep, how deep our wingers were, and we decided to play this high offside line that eventually City found out, where Madueke was dropping so deeper than our defensive line, and eventually we got caught out. Not by Erling Haaland, not by Bernardo Silva, not by Phil Foden in that first half. It was actually Josko Gvardiol, their left back and right back, combining for that goal. Robert Sanchez already showing in that first half. We got lucky with his flapping a pretty tame shot that nearly allowed an equaliser, but his inability to control any one-on-one situation and give us any confidence he's a top-class goalkeeper were only exposed as the game went on. And obviously in the second half, a pretty dull second half. I didn't feel that I felt City in periods of that first half were much better than they were in the second. A ball gets played over the top, Trevor Chalobah's kind of handling it, and for some reason Robert Sanchez decides now is the time to press the button to run out, to sprint out, the triangle button if you play on PS5. That's the time to run out, and I don't know what he's even thinking of. What is he trying to do? Is he trying to win the ball, even though there was not even a chance for him to win the ball? Make himself an action hero? I don't know what it was. Puts himself in no man's land, and Erling Haaland doesn't have to do much. As a professional footballer at his level, thinks, hang on a minute, and he's absolutely, undone any good work that could have been done by Trevor Chalobah to kind of push Haaland away from goal. Easy, 2-1. And the game completely turns again. That screenshot of where Sanchez is so sums up Chelsea. It so sums up the ludicrous nature of this club currently, that is our first choice goalkeeper. Before this game, Maresca was coming out and publicly defending Sanchez, not just saying I back him because he's my player, which most coaches would and should do. No, he was starting to bring up a list of errors of some of his other players that he started to throw under the bus. And again, I'm sat here, it ends 3-1 and they play Route 1 again. I don't think defensively Levi and Trev come out of that moment looking great. I have to be honest, I like Trev, but maybe should have been more alert there. I think Levi had a really poor performance. I thought Reece at times had really poor moments throughout the game. No one really comes out of this game looking great for Chelsea, if we're being completely honest. But the moment Foden goes 1-on-1, I know Sanchez ain't saving it. And we had really nothing to give in that second half. And the shallow nature of Chelsea's performance, how quickly it deteriorated, how it didn't feel like City had to really get out of first gear like they did in the first game of the season, which at the time everyone was hailing as this great performance. And at the time I said, no, we've barely hit Man City. And the fact we come out of this season not even getting 2 points like we did last year against them. We've come out of 2 games against this Man City side winning absolutely no points against them. Psychologically, it's huge, I think, for City. Psychologically, it should be damaging for Chelsea. But I'm not sure, because Maresca pre-game was talking about how when he spoke to the ownership and the sporting directors, actually top 4 isn't even the ambition this year. Alarm bells should be ringing everywhere around this club currently, that it doesn't matter where we are in the league, because I'm not sure internally there is responsibility, expectation, accountability. That is a word I think is so lacking from current Chelsea. With a week of the window left to go that we've wasted looking at Garnacho for some reason, rather than recalling a central midfielder, which we desperately need at the moment, and also looking at a centre forward. We've wasted that time. Is there any confidence that between now and deadline day we're going to do anything? And if we do, is it out of opportunity rather than actually adequate squad planning? This to me feels like a key moment, but unfortunately a negative one that kind of sums up all my fears about Chelsea currently. That we're a pretty unserious team. And sure, we have enough good players that have got us to this point where we're at least 4th or 5th in the table. But do you really have much faith with the problems we have in our squad and the failures we've seen of Enzo Maresca as a coach over the past month that we're going to, reclaim that 4th spot? Which again, should be the defining line between failure and success. If you are okay with not getting Champions League football, okay, but, don't talk to me about standards. Don't talk to me about how bad Pochettino was last year. Don't talk to me about how, what Chelsea used to be and we need these big players. But apparently now we've gone from a place of even challenging for a Premier League title is beyond us to now actually top 6 is actually unrealistic. If you're okay with that, if you're okay with that spin and the goalpost continually being moved down and down in terms of expectation, then, I'm sure the club will be happy with that because they're not going to be getting any pressure from you. But I'm not going to sit here and accept. I've never accepted Rob Sanchez as Chelsea's first choice goalkeeper. I don't accept the treatment of objectively good players over poor ones. I don't accept that these sporting directors, after 4 windows which they asked for, to have such a flawed squad is acceptable. And I don't accept that Maresca shouldn't be under any pressure. Now, again, it's a bit like the Sanchez. I don't really blame him because this is a guy, when you look at his CV, doesn't really have a lot. So it's not like I can look back at his career and say he's had load of moments like this where actually he's proven that if you give him time, if you give him an ability and give him more patience, he will come good, because he doesn't have a lot in his CV to show you that. It's kind of off vibes. It's off, it's off that he can, because he played some good football with Leicester in the Championship, that's going to transition to Chelsea, a very different Chelsea, a Chelsea that is under pressure currently, that has been a bit chaotic, and is, again, it goes back to the decision makers, is the actual end point here what we think it is? Is it about winning Champions League, winning Premier League titles? No, not even that. Like, I'm in a privileged position, right? I've been lucky enough, like many of you, to watch Chelsea win literally everything. So if I don't see Chelsea win another trophy, I can at least say I've seen what 99.9% of a lot of football fans will never get to see, right? I'm lucky, I'm privileged in that sense. But if we're talking about like objective reality and like what I think a base level expectation from most fans is based on what they've seen of the club, even in the past few years, like we're not talking about the Abramovich era, they've spent £1 billion on this squad. It's not like this expectation is just unreasonable and has come out of absolutely nowhere. It's just saying, how can we spend £1 billion and there still being so many weird choices and weird personnel decisions and so many gaps in the squad, and then continuing to make choices in the transfer window that don't add up in terms of making the squad better, for fixing those errors. And maybe, I'm missing something. And maybe in a month's time, Chelsea have transformed and they've gone back to where they were a few months ago. Where, I sat here and I was happy to say I've been proven wrong. Like, the team looks so much better than I thought it was going to be. But this is not now 1 week. This is not just Everton. This is not just Fulham. This is not just Ipswich. This is not just Crystal Palace. This is not just Bournemouth. This is now a series of games over a pretty decent chunk of time that we can look at where the team's form has gone like that. And if people want to turn around and say it doesn't matter, okay, fair enough. But I think that for most, it does matter. And it's concerning the direction of travel at the club if things aren't rectified for this season. Because I think things could turn toxic. And again, that's not me willing it to happen. That's just reality. Like, people, I think, being gaslit for so long, for being smeared at times, for being blamed for things that are not even their fault. Like, supporters are not to blame because you can't seriously construct a football team. Supporters are not to blame because you decided to have Rob Sanchez as your first choice goalkeeper. That's not my fault. That's not your fault. But it's wild to me we have to sit here and tell you this. It's not my fault that it's getting briefed about an 100-point Premier League team and, these 18-page documents why Pochettino had to be sacked at the end of last season. But apparently now we're not going to judge the team till March. And apparently now, actually, top 4 isn't even an expectation this year. Don't blame me because of that. Blame the people in charge that those goalposts have been moved and expectations have been moved and expectations have been lowered to such a point now where it doesn't feel like there's much accountability. So I'm not even sure Maresca should really fear for his job, because I don't know what we're actually doing here anymore. And again, I hope this ramble from me looks silly in a month. I hope that in a month's time, Jackson's banging in goals again. Palmer's doing wonders. Madueke's scoring more goals. Sancho looks like a great signing. Enzo and Caicedo are dominating in central midfield. We all hope that. I don't enjoy going to the bridge and being miserable. I don't enjoy coming on here and I'd rather be, playing FIFA or watching WWE on Netflix, right? I'd rather be doing something else. But I'm never going to lie to you about how I truly feel about Chelsea. And if you look on social media currently, my point of view is not exactly fringe. So, that's my take on the game. And I hope there's accountability. I hope Chelsea think that something just between now and the end of January transfer deadline day, something needs to be done to at least improve the options for Enzo Maresca between now and May. But will that happen? And is that really the objective? That's the question I'll leave with you. And I'll see you again very soon.